This story that caught our attention is the Senate Committee on Basic Education that said that they would work towards amending the law establishing the Joint Administration and Matriculation Board, that's JAM, to stop the board from admitting candidates below the age of 18 years. You know, Dami, let me start with you. What's your take on this when you saw it?
Some people have been doing JAM since age 11. They did it 9 times till they enter age 19. At the end of it, because you'll be giving JAM 5,000 every year. Yes, it's a laudable one. I think I like it because sometimes it helps your child even grow mentally, physically, socially. There will be some level of understanding all round that the child must have attained, other than wanting to push a child of 15 or 14 plus. Some of us have early educations into a university that is a larger community of wolves and hyenas and lions and hippopotamuses. Then the child comes back with another type of vice that they cannot control. Then we blame it on peer pressure. No, so I think, yes, it's a good idea. If every child is 18, that means at 18 you're an adult. You can go to jail. So let us be aware of our environment and ourselves before pushing these children out. All
right, many thanks, Damilola, on that. I think for me, I'm totally in sync with the policy despite these structural changes it might have on our educational system. I'm sorry, I might sound hypocritical because my own very son should be graduating from secondary school by the age of 16. But however, if the government plans an adjusting entry age for university students, they should be ready to make the following changes because of the reaping effects. One, they should be ready to, revamp the tertiary educational system. There is no point a student, just like you said, Damilola, is delayed for 3 to 4, 5 years before university entry. At the end of the day, the person now gets to spend another 4+, God knows what number of years before the person is going to spend before graduating. So they should know better that the private university are in business simply because the federal schools are failing and disappointing the citizens. Secondly is the fact that they should be able to work on the labor market to provide, feasible and sustainable jobs. Again, there is no point a student wait for 3 years, reads a 4-year course, and then wait for another second generation before he or she can get a decent job for survival. And I think that that's part of the challenges that we are facing today, that you see the youth of today are struggling and they do not really want to follow the process. They do not want to say that, okay, let me go through consistency to say that I will arrive there. Everybody wants to make that money quickly. Everybody wants to buy what they call the bone streets, whatever. Those are the challenges that we are facing today. Yeah. So government needs to take ownership to know that they are part of the problems that we are going through today.
Well, for me, I'm asking, how is that going to work in the age where people are always going to do age declaration by way of affidavit? So how are you going to deny that? I lost my birth certificate, so I've done my declaration and this is what I have. How are you now going to say that child was not born in a certain year? So how will they work? Then another thing, if you're talking about primary education, we're talking about primary education. I know you will say our times, years are past. I went to Maryland Convent Private, for instance. When you're age 4, you start kindergarten. So by the time you go through they call it year now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 compulsory before you get into secondary school. At all the Catholic schools, find out. If you're not 11, they don't admit you. They don't. So what are we talking about? Like you said, the government has a lot to do.
A lot of role to play in this.
Yes.
Let you put your own submission on this trending story.
Honestly, it's always easy to come up with a policy or with an idea, but how do you want to sustain it? And have you thought about the bridging of the remedial gaps that is going to be played? So what happens to a child that is very bright and had finished at the age of 14? What you're saying is this same child is going to sit at home for the next 4 years. How are you going to engage that child? So I see a gap of idleness. I see another gap of frustration, and I see another gap of retarded growth in a child. Let's balance this. It's fantastic for so many reasons, but even the job that we are thinking by the time they are finished that they will get, is it actually there? So the truth of the matter is, I I love it. There must be a reason why this is coming up. But what are we using to bridge even the existing gap? Because the truth, in another 5 years, we have a problem. And what's going to happen to these children? This is the age where they're agitated. And if you don't give them the real answers why you're doing what you're doing, be ready for another reboot out.
All right. Excellent afternoon, viewer. It's a pretty Thursday afternoon, and you're welcome to your show, Real Talk with Kike. But before I repeat my name, I think a thought came to my head, and I'm pondering on what about the Nigerian child? What about the widows? What exactly is the plight in our country today in terms of recovering from post-COVID-19 challenges? A thought for you and I. Welcome. My name remains Kike Lomatonda, and of course, I'm not here alone. I'm here with my beautiful co-host. How are you doing, Damla? Damla, I love your eyes. I deliberately kept the compliment. I kept the compliment for myself. That when we come live, I cannot tell you.
Oh my God.
Beautiful. Regina is doing a beautiful job on you.
She's fantastic.
On us.
She's fantastic. Good afternoon from everywhere you're getting the opportunity to see us today again. I hope it's a brand new Thursday with you like it is with us. I will always say be patriotic citizens of Nigeria. Do good, be your best, and leave the rest for God. Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon. I'm Efo. It's good to have you with us. It's a new day. We thank God for his mercies. Thank God we're here. Just get ready for a bumper show with us.
All right. We haven't heard from Nigeria of the past, especially when it comes to on this day in history. Please stay with us and let's see what the history has to say to us.
On this day in history, July 15th, 1960, United Nations troops arrived to help deal with the political crisis following Mose Kapen Chombe's declaration of independence for Katanga province in Congo. The intervention of United Nations troops followed Patrice Lumumba's request for assistance from African countries and the United Nations. The secession of Katanga fueled the province of South Kasai to declare independence on the 8th of August 1960, calling itself the Federal State of South Kasai, with Joseph Ngalula as head of Parliament.
Right, on this day in history, I'm so glad that our guest today has worked with United Nations in the past, and I'm happy that on this day in history is actually reminding us of how United Nations in 1960 have rose, to when it comes to the to help the Nigerian, as in the troops, to help us in the political arena, especially when it comes to crisis. I think that a lot of NGOs, a lot of organizations, initiative needs to actually come together, especially when it comes to the political parties, that when we are having challenges with our with a lot of processing. But Dami, I know you have a lot to say, especially when it comes to the country that we are talking about. So give me your submissions on it.
I think that when I saw it, it gave me the insight to go read about South Kasai.
Yeah.
And South Kasai is a country under the Republic of
Congo
that got a semi-independence between 2 years, 1960 to 1962. And I think what particularly happened was they thought that they were not stable enough to stand on their own, and they were categorized as an unrecognized region within the state. And I also think that basically what happened is just this rule of power and intoxication. It's a very simple thing. Let's dialogue, come to the table, let's talk about these things and resolve it. But sometimes when we hold power too much and it's like, no, this is do or die, I will not leave it. Something will even leave you, girl. Because if the power did not leave you, you will leave it last. So that's just it. But the swift response of the United Nations, even in that rift, it was very appreciable. Like you said, sometimes, that's why I was laughing, sometimes when you need help, Shebi, you need help, you seek for help. But when you now need help and you refuse to seek for help, who will not help you?
Is ego. What do you have to say to this?
Well, for me on this day in history, I'll just say basically, Damlola just took the words out of my mouth, If you know you're walking around something and you're not getting a solution, just seek international help. That's it, basically.
But we African countries, what have you noticed about us?
It's ego.
Ego. Last data released on the humanitarian web, there are 258 million widows around the world, of which Nigeria has over 8 million widows with an estimated 21 million children. in May 2015, the federal government signed into law the Violence Against Persons Prohibition, that's VAPP, Act to protect people against various forms of violence, including harmful widowhood practice, and it was the first time federal law has expressly granted widows protection from abuse, but enforcement is weak, and we all know that some widows go to the extent of attempting to take their life, that's suicide, due to the harsh maltreatment, according to our guest Chinwe Bode-Akinwande. But today on the show, we will be looking at the Nigerian child, and of course the widows and the NGOs running philanthropical projects. And to answer these questions that I asked before I opened the show today, the founder of Chinwe Bode-Akinwande Foundation and the head of digital marketing, First Bank of Nigeria Limited, will be giving us a lot of insight to all of these questions. I must commend your good works, when it comes to what you are doing with the widows, with the orphanage, and I must say, fantastic job right there. How are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing great. Yeah. I'm so excited being here. As a matter of fact, giving the voice to the widows makes my day. So thank you so very much for making this a reality. Thank you so much. I'm so excited being here.
Yeah,
you're most welcome.
Thanks.
So, let's
us.
dive straight into the conversation. You run Chinwe Bode-Akinwande Foundation. I beg your pardon. And I'm proud of your works, like I emphasized earlier at the beginning. So I'm very sure you are very much familiar with the environment of the vulnerable people. So my question is, what are the critical challenges and the pressing necessity for all these people that you've been working with thus far?
Honestly, the list is an endless list. But for the purpose of this conversation, I think what we basically will be doing is to put some priority in terms of the list and the listing. The plight of the widows in this country is just enormous. I've had the conversation around the VAPP Act. Brilliant, signed into law in 2015. The question is, out of the 32 states that we have in Nigeria, how many has actually adopted this law? 18, I would say. And why is that so? And even the 18, how many are enforcing this law? So let's even begin to look at the plight of the widows. A woman loses her husband today. Days are gone when the movie world tells us that the people from the village comes down to town to move the woman away. But the reality of today is that they are the people in suit and ties. That as long as the woman is leaving, the man is even facing. I've seen people where the man is fighting cancer. At the period of that case, the families are already picking the cars, looking for the documents, moving them, and beginning to share the properties. In some cases, they are accusing the woman, you're the one that killed your husband. I don't even want to go into that because I'm not God. I am not the one that leads. But the question is, why would I accept to marry and have him plan to kill the man? Again, that's a question for another day. But even at that, we have seen cultures, and it still exists. One called me 2 weeks ago, where as the man dies, the culture of locking the woman in a dark room, before the burial of this man, the dead body is washed, given to the woman to drink to confirm that she is innocent. And if she dies, God help you, the man had a disease and it could lead to her death as well. Then she says, oh, if you die, you're the one that has lost it. The one that is so profound now is that widows that have only girl child are considered not to even have a child. So they are asked to leave, to drop the name of the family, some, even the landed properties. They've told widows that I have carried cameras around, telling them that the house where you live is too big for you. You really need to vacate. We can sell it or rent it out and get another money for you to find a smaller house. And that never happens. Confiscation of properties, not giving them voice. The kids are dropping out of school as I speak. So honestly, they are enormous and we can keep going and going. But the truth of the matter is, where is this VAPP Act? Who do they run to? Who is believing them? Family is failing them. Church can't do much because family is the underlying fact on the day. And then culture is the one that laces it up where wickedness thrives.
Wow. Culture listen it up where wickedness thrives. And for your NGO that has done so much with widows, I'm sure that it's pretty going to be hard in terms of also getting funds and making life more meaningful for these widows. But how do you sustain your NGO?
Great, good question. How do we sustain it? What we are doing right now is one of the sustenance, because voice is critical. A lot of people are watching, they are hearing what we are doing, and it will amaze you. Most of the time, we believe in experiential knowledge. We believe in taking those cameras that, beyond what we say, hear from the people in charge, the direct people. So we reach out to them, tell your story, let the world hear. And what happens is, as they do that, people visit our website, they donate. We see a lot of people saying, we see what you're doing, they send us emails, the journalists want to carry the story and interview this widow. So that's how donation comes. Corporate organizations at times, they reach out to us to say, we would like to donate, so we send them letters. It's really not in that quantum, but honestly speaking, with the one that we are getting, we are using it to impact their lives one after the other.
I would like to ask, what's the
please.
propelling force behind setting up the CBA Foundation? And how's the journey been so far?
Propelling force. So I will answer the question before. Maybe there's a leading person that usually come when I speak to. So I tell people up front, my husband is alive and my dad is alive. So actually, I'm not a direct maybe witness, or I've not gone through this violence. But the truth of the matter is, humanity is something that is part of me. In my former life, I've worked with humanitarian organizations, for instance. But I've realized that, I mean, looking around, seeing my friends who their dad is no longer, you know, they are not alive. And I go to church, I see that, you know, there's this women that usually after Sunday, they go by the window of the rich men to knock, to tell us the story of their life. So I became interested. Who are these? You know, I realized that they have, you know, an association in church, they have their issues. And I found out that people don't really talk about them. They seem invisible and unheard. And I said, you know what? I want to know more. I want to give them voice. I want to lend hope in the little way I can.
Okay.
Fantastic.
great.
And I must say
That's
that
good.
really lending more than you can ever imagine. You know, I know you've worked in the past with UN and UNICEF and all of that. So how can you measure the impact with the Sustainable Development Goals with your own experience thus far?
Okay, I've worked with UNICEF. UNICEF within the SDG goals owns pretty much like 7 that is directly impacting the lives of children, because UNICEF is primarily for children and mothers.
Okay.
But that as it may be, you also find that there's a linking force between the other SDGs with UNICEF as well, because UNICEF is an agency that sits under UN. Now, the data may not be something that we might see like an NGO, because most of these international organizations will work with the CSOs, the NGOs, but most importantly, like UNICEF, UNICEF works with government. Government from the standpoint that there has to be, you know, from a sustainability perspective, if you're talking about eradicating poverty, what do you want to eradicate poverty? There has to be a policy. So that there is something driving it and it's not just tactical. So they work with government, they work with local government, they work with state level. But again, much as you build these policies as UNICEF, the next thing is, who are those that are your foot soldiers that will help you actualize and bring it to life? And that is where the NGOs and CSOs come in. So for UNICEF, for instance, while I was there in my former life, one thing that UNICEF does in every of the country that they move in is, these are the goals. The next thing is, where are our priority areas and who are we going to use to drive it? As they pick the goals, we identify who. As we are in fundraising, the policy of United Nations is, where you operate, the net proceeds that comes into that country, you use it for the sustenance of the kids and the mothers in those countries. And that is how the data is. So if you go to UNICEF sustainability goals, there are full data on how they pass across, you know, regarding each of those goals in terms of poverty, in terms of child education, in terms of everything, just has its own data on how they
All right. I apologize, Dami. Before you go, I'm glad that you're able to at least tailor,
Yes.
itemize all the necessary things that UNICEF is doing. But for those who are listening and who are watching and who might want to support, I know that the biggest empowerment I believe we can give women is not just finance but education. Sure. So, and maybe education and training to balance it. So, in terms of training and education, how much is the CBA Foundation doing right now for those who, who are listening to us, who might want to support this foundation?
So, training, even if you go to our website, you will see that we've empowered about 8,700 since 2015. And how we do that is to pull in people with key skills to run skill acquisition for these people, because they need to be empowered.
Yes.
It's not just giving them the money.
Yes.
So some people like to bake cake. Some people don't even know, oh, they love tie and dye and they would like to do. So we bring all these things together. How do you do small jobs, entrepreneurship? We train them. After training them, there is still that engagement with them to make sure that, again, you've honed your skill a little bit, that whereby we can say, okay, here is this amount of money. We will go to the market with you. Because the truth of the matter is poverty. We don't want you to divert the funds.
Absolutely.
So we will buy the items.
So kind of like monitor
it, yes. We will buy them. Then the little one that you use to now dry, maybe go to market, but we will now give you those cash.
Okay.
In terms of education, like we said in our core areas, we look at early education, which is quality education, and that is from primary 1 to 6. We can't solve the problem of this country. So we say, once you say, oh, my child, I'm a widow, he can't attend secondary school, I'm so sorry, maybe not CBA Foundation. But we've reinstated about 158 children back to school. That we realize that, why is he not in school? He's out there hawking granite or something with the mom. So reaching out, and some people, their passion is that they want to take children back to school.
Yes.
So we pay directly to the school again
Fantastic.
and get the receipt, because we need to do donor reporting as well.
Documentation.
So we give that feedback. So we pay directly to the school. For people that are willing to give us back to school items and all that, we also do that for them.
Okay, looking at CBA in general, in entirety, do you have relationship with other NGOs in terms of support and in terms of putting hands together, putting resources together to achieve maybe another bigger goal that the CBA might not be able to do on its own?
Absolutely. We are very big in collaboration and partnership. Registering with Lagos State, for instance. So Lagos State, again, Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation reaches out to us on roundtable discussion, things that can be done. Then we're also part of different NGO of this country, the association that handles non-governmental. We are members and we participate. And what happens is, take for instance the June 23, that is International Widows Day. What the association does is to find out every other NGO that their core or their focus area is on widows. So we think of what can we do together. The more the merrier, the more the better. And I've had people reach out, like the last one that we carry cameras around for the widows, reaching out to say, I would like you to extend this to the north. We've started one in Abuja, but again, we'll have someone that is, because, I mean, this country is complicated.
Very.
We need to do our background check.
Yes.
Because we've done a couple of engagements whereby you realize that after we had finished and they've seen the stories of widows, someone keeps telling you, I would like to see another person, that actually I'm not a widow, it's just poverty. Do you understand? Yeah, that's somebody that the husband can't afford food. The person said that she's married. And I said, no, the definition of widow is that your husband is dead.
Yes.
So even as we work to look out for collaborations, we look at common goals, common interests, and come together to make sure that more lives are touched.
Okay, I would like to touch on what you said now, that's having to explain the meaning of being a widow. Is there any form of documentation that they go through, maybe tendering the death certificate of their husband for genuine reasons?
Yes. So when we want to give out money, because it takes a lot for 1 naira to enter CBA Foundation's account. We can do the generic clothing, because people give us clothes, new clothes, laces and all that, we give out to them. Food distribution, we may not be very strict, but when it has to do with, we want to set up business for you, we want to take you through an acquisition training, we need proof. Even when we reinstate the kit, we will tell you, madam, please show me the proof that Oga died. Show me. You
have to scrutinize.
We need to scrutinize. Exactly. Otherwise, we've had cases when we started that, when we're doing our background checks, somebody picks the phone and is the woman's husband. She's forgotten. She came and dropped her data. So when I say, okay, we say, make we greet you. And we will
Before
just
you set up trouble.
Before you started the family,
Yes.
that's
it's
not my intention.
diplomatic.
Yeah, so we say make we greet you, Oga, well done, greet madam for us. And I may be the husband now.
Abi.
So that's why we go through that
Okay.
to make sure that we are really sure, and then we'll extend.
Wow.
Something else, you talked about clothing just now. Do you also monitor that? I ask for a reason.
Please go ahead.
Because I happen to be in the benevolence department of my church at some point.
Okay.
When you give them this clothing, they go out there. I don't know how poverty,
Sticks in the head.
affects the psyche. They sell the same items that you give them. Food items, clothing, you find them selling at the bus stops the same things they have collected. So in the area of clothing, you say you get good material like laces and stuff. Do you monitor that?
So let me tell you what we do. I said I have full experience.
Yes.
When we do food distribution, and we have a number, because it was Jesus that multiplied loaves of
5
bread
by
and fishes in
5,000.
2000. So we have a number. When we do our screening and engagement, we'll give out the tally numbers for
Okay.
people that had come,
Yeah.
right? And for clothing, at any point in time, you can't take more than 2.
Good.
So that is where we avoid the greed coming in, where people want to pack 10 at the same time to now go and use belts
Yes.
to be selling another
Exactly.
person's clothes. So
Trust me, that's what they
we
do.
have volunteers that make sure that as you're collecting so you do your medical thing with the doctors and the nurses. So you move to where you need to do your food collection, put it aside, then you take to go collect your clothing, and we are checking. You can't take more than 1. And if you finish that, if you're with your child, because we'll have a session for the kids, you go and pick maybe a cloth and a shoe for the child. That is how it goes round.
Okay.
Because otherwise, poverty is bad.
Like you mentioned, greed.
So I'm particularly intrigued by the fact that you have adopted schools. So what's the criteria
Okay, so
for adopting the schools?
yeah, a typical example is the school is Iberekudu Primary School. I've never been there, so don't ask me how I got to be there. It's like it took me time to even
In Lagos
memorize the
State?
name.
In Lagos State?
Yes, in
Yes,
Lagos State,
Iberekudu
somewhere
is,
at
around the
Ekpe
Ekpe area.
area.
Yeah. All around Lagos.
So when we got there, we started, we will reach out to the ballets and all that, looking for locations that we could use because we wanted to reach out. The health intervention was the same period. We wanted to do skill acquisition and the rest. By the time we got to the school, I needed to speak to the head of school.
Okay.
We realized that even the head of school and the teachers were interested to be volunteers, right? So we went ahead to even ask questions. How is it going? Are there challenges here and all that? Do you have, pupils that are, beneficial, just widows, they don't have fathers anymore? And we realized that there were some, and there were difficulties around back to school item and the rest like that. So we got interested to say, how do we support to make sure that as we delivered, it's not just the child, that is the child, a son or a daughter to a widow. Other of the kids can also get the exercise books and all that. And that was how we took interest to realize that there were needs. And since we are doing this, why not? So we do that with the Iberekudu. Also, I'm from Nnewi, Anambra State, is where I'm born. So I believe charity begins at home. So of course I extended
You took it back home.
Absolutely. So those are some of the criteria that we use to find. We usually would do our need analysis so that we're not just throwing just a drop of water
in the ocean.
All right, many
Thank you.
thanks for
Thank
that
you so
again. I know your professional expertise in the digital marketing world, which cuts across different industries, from international agencies to the banking industry and so on. So what's your assessment based on the application of digital marketing in our banking industry today, especially in Nigeria, and how has it helped to improve revenue and banking and standards, basically?
It has tremendously helped. And why do I say that? Maybe I may not be so passionate to say this like 2 years ago.
Okay.
But what we know that if nothing has taught us anything, COVID has.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And days ago where we say, oh, digital is the future. Digital is now.
Now.
And how has the banks, how did they survive lockdown? And you were able to access your money? The ATM had cash. The mobile apps were working. It's because there's a tremendous investment that has happened on the digital part of banking. the USSD as well. So technology has played a massive role in banking. So digital in its sense is what has brought, again, an extension and sustainability of what happens today. So like I said, if nothing else, COVID has told us it's possible.
Okay, if I'm going to try on that question now, technology has taught us, and our bank accounts have showed us. Because sometimes you get some debits, 25 naira, 36 naira, 20 naira, and sometimes it feels like there's no direct explanation for it. There's no day you go to a Nigerian bank that somebody is actually not complaining about, I had 1,000 yesterday, today is 998 naira, I had this and that. Is there a way that we can work around this? And then it saddens me that account maintenance fee, are you doing car wash in my account?
It should not sadden you. Let me explain to you.
Okay, please do.
The moment you're opening an account, you have options on how, even mention the international banks of this world. They would give you the options and you signed, right? You can have options to say, I can only receive my SMS alert, or I only want
via email.
Yes.
Or I only want this. It's not a car wash machine.
Or current or savings.
It's not a car wash machine. But again, you know, in as much as we are deviating into, there's a reason why your money is being serviced. Bear in mind that the person that is sending you the alert is not part of the bank. This is a telco that is offering a service at a highly discounted rate. If you say hi to your friend via SMS, clearly you're spending more than 15 naira. Clearly, you just said hi. But here is
I think SMS is about 4
it's 4
naira.
naira.
Okay, now,
It's about 4
because,
naira.
Sorry, I beg your pardon, there was a time it was 15.
Yes.
Then it keeps reducing.
Yes,
Exactly.
4 naira. It's
Now,
4 naira for
when
a
you
bit.
look at all the services that is being rendered and what they are allowed for, what I tell everyone that is banking, including myself, I have a bank account, look at what and the avenues where you want your service to be rendered. And if you feel that there are some that you don't want and you're more comfortable with the online version, your emails and all that, by all means, please call your bank and do the modification.
Come on, my
Where you are
the money that we're going 50, 250, 100.
Where you're calling the banks, for instance, a good number of them, the customer service sections do not work. Trust me. Even you know what I
all
mean.
the banks.
So, you know, so you are talking to a customer service person over the phone. They're edgy because they don't know what to tell you. And the banks send you unsolicited messages and they make you pay for those messages. Repeated messages every day on a daily. So how do we balance that?
All right, before you answer that question, we have a caller from Benin. Mabel, many thanks for calling. I understand that she's a widow.
Okay.
Hello, Mabel.
Yeah,
Good
please go
Good
ahead.
afternoon.
I'm Benin.
Yeah, go ahead, Mabel. Mabel, is
Can
it
you bring down the
possible?
volume of your TV set, Mabel, so that we can hear you clearly?
Apologies, I have to let that go. Please respond to that.
Okay, customer service.
Yes.
Right? Is an area that, aside even the bank, across the business,
Yes.
even non-governmental, whatever profit making is something that is key, and everybody continues to build on that.
Yes.
There are consultants, you know, international and even local, that has paid and put a searchlight in making sure that they drive customer service. What I'll always tell people is, for every other business that you're running, apart from the banking sector, even if you have other ones, your tailor or whoever that it is, please make sure that you demand to know who your relationship manager is. That way, you're able to put a call to say, I have this issue, how can you help me do it? It's something that might be a do-it-yourself. It will amaze you that at times you go to some banking halls, when you look at the queue, I get curious to ask them, please, what are these people waiting for?
here? What are
They say they want to check their account balance. And they're agitated that they're not answering them. And this is something you can go to an ATM, use your card and
your
just
codes.
find out. So honestly, it's relating, but this is one of the things that I'll ask you to do.
All right, many thanks again for
Thank you.
your submission thus far. You know, but on a lighter note, you know, aside wondering the cross background from your name, I'm curious to know how did a digital marketing communication expert come from a place of banking industry and finding a balance again to create a foundation. So what's the inspiration, and how would I put this now? What inspired you to, you know, create this, especially with all you've done thus far? And I must say you are doing a wonderful job, guys, and that's the truth. You know, you should visit the page. And more so, you said earlier that you still have husband, you still have father and all of that. So really, what inspired us, or what inspired you?
What inspired
But before you answer that, we have a caller on the line. Many thanks for calling. Ken, I can hear you. Please go ahead. Speak up.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please, I want to hear from the mommy that is there, your guest.
Yes, please go ahead.
And all those skill accusation, please, can they bring it to River State and in Port Harcourt?
Don't worry, just go follow the page. She will share the information of the page before we round up the show, so that you can ask all the necessary questions. So if I may ask, can you please respond to that? What inspired you?
What inspires me is, like I said, I have paid close attention to this set of people, the widows. And like I said, the widows, I put emphasis on the privileged ones. And I just want them to be happy. I know life has happened, but I just want them to pick up on themselves and get going. And the truth of the matter is that when I decided to start doing this, there is this fulfillment that it gives me. Money can't buy it.
True.
That is the truth. And I keep seeing it grow. When I check up on them and see that life is better, the ones that have contemplated suicide, and we said, you know what stopped her from saying, I'm going to end it after 3 attempts? She has 8 children. We started a second-hand clothing material of 30,000 naira in front of our house. And today she's doing great. That in itself keeps me going.
Fantastic submission. But you know, out of curiosity, because you know that I have a foundation too that I'm trying to grow. You know, and someone asked me that Kike they lose their partner before you can help them. You know, that got me thinking. And I realized that also when I Googled Alakija recently on her 70th birthday, Felicia Alakija, and the same question popped up to her. So I'm curious to ask you, since you're also in this line of business, some people will ask, must you wait till someone's partner passes on before you can help them?
All right. Every foundation have their co-focus area.
True.
Every.
True.
CBA Foundation cannot solve the problem of the world. People have come to me to say, I'm amputated, I need to replace the 2 legs. I am not into that. Some people have said, I need to send my child because it has a hole in the heart. Am I touched? Absolutely. But
it's not your call.
It's not my call, right? So what we do is, I go the extra mile to
referrals.
Find who can do that.
Yes.
You understand? Protection, somebody is battered, beaten, but still married. I find people that protect women and say, please, hook up to this lady and support her because that is your area.
That's where you talked about collaboration.
Exactly, that's the collaboration because we know what they do. We reach out to NGO and the rest. And lastly for me is, as we do this, because we can't solve the whole problem, we will do the one that we can do. When there was lockdown, we were liberal a bit to say, people are not finding food. When we moved food to different rural areas and locations, we weren't specific that it was going to be widows at this point. We said, distribute to as many as possible through the balanced palace. That way there is sanity. So we also have this thing with the rural leaders. So we reach out. Otherwise we'll just be schizophrenic. We'll be all over the place helping these people and we won't be.
All right, Dami, before I let you go, apologies for holding on to you. We have another caller now. Paul, from I think Abia State. Many thanks for calling.
My name is Paul from Abia State.
Yeah. What's your contribution on the topic of
I want to ask the woman there, this is
Chinwe Bode-Akinwande.
Yeah.
how do you manage to build the foundation? Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Paul.
Okay, how do I manage to build my foundation? We reach out to what we're doing, right? Like I said it earlier, is one of the ways. God bless you, Kike, for having interest and you guys, you ladies, wanting to talk about this. This is one of the ways that it can be sustained, right? Then number 2 is we reach out. We try as much as possible to go to these people, to reach out to hear their story.
One-on-one.
One-on-one. Then take their story back to people that would have the opportunity and the resources to help. So we send out proposals, We are very active on our social media pages. We update our website. We reach out to friends and family. We post things, and people reach out to us. They donate, because without funds,
we can do nothing.
We can
Just
do
like
nothing.
the Yoruba people will say, when a day your Jew is not at home, it's money that will solve all the problem. When money is not at home, people cannot do meeting. But now I would like to take it back to the churches. I know that some churches, yes, they have organizations for widows and all of that. Is there anybody really looking at the widower too, or do we just consider because the men are strong that they should sort themselves out in life?
Very valid question. I know that widowers had reached out to me. Again, I take you back to, I can't solve the problem of the world.
True.
CBA Foundation is underprivileged widows and their vulnerable children. Underprivileged. When we find those that are privileged, we ask them to even support and lend their hands to pull others up, because it's easier. They know what it means to be a widow. I don't know what it means. So when they speak to them, they understand. For the widowers, I am still looking out for that foundation that is into supporting widows. And when we find them, I will do the handshake.
All right. On this note, I apologize. We have to wrap up on this segment before we go into the last segment, which is trending story, which is what affects us all. But I must thank you first. It's really edifying to have your personality on the show. And I must say, keep up the good work. And well done. May God continue to bless the work of your hands. So one of the trending story that caught our attention is the Senate Committee on Basic Education that said that it would they would work towards amending the law establishing the Joint Administration and Matriculation Board, that's JAM, to stop the board from admitting candidates below the age of 18 years. You know, Dami, let me start with you. What's your take on this when you saw it?
Some people have been doing JAM since age 11. They did it 9 times till they enter age 19. At the end of it, because you'll be giving JAM 5,000 every year. Yes, it's a laudable one. I think I like it because sometimes it helps your child even grow mentally, physically, socially. There will be some level of understanding all round that the child must have attained, other than wanting to push a child of 15 or 14 plus. Some of us have early educations into a university that is a larger community of wolves and hyenas and lions and hippopotamuses. Then the child comes back with another type of vice that they cannot control. Then we blame it on peer pressure. No, so I think, yes, it's a good idea. If every child is 18, that means at 18 you're an adult. You can go to jail. So let us be aware of our environment and ourselves before pushing these children out.
All right, many thanks, Damilola, on that. I think for me, I'm totally in sync with the policy despite these structural changes it might have on our educational system. I'm sorry, I might sound hypocritical because my own very son should be graduating from secondary school by the age of 16. But however, if the government plans an adjusting entry age for university students, they should be ready to make the following changes because of the reaping effects. One, they should be ready to, revamp the tertiary educational system. There is no point a student, just like you said, Damilola, is delayed for 3 to 4, 5 years before university entry. At the end of the day, gets, the person now gets to spend another 4+, God knows what number of years before the person is going to spend before graduating. So they should know better that the private university are in business simply because the federal schools are failing and disappointing the citizens. Secondly is the fact that they should be able to work on the labor market to provide, feasible and sustainable jobs. Again, there is no point a student wait for 3 years, reads a 4-year course, and then wait for another second generation before he or she can get a decent job for survival. And I think that that's part of the challenges that we are facing today, that you see the youth of today are struggling and they do not really want to follow the process. They do not want to say that, okay, let me go through consistency to say that I will arrive there. Everybody wants to make that money quickly. Everybody wants to buy what they call the bone streets, whatever. Those are the challenges that we are facing today. Yeah. So government needs to take ownership to know that they are part of the problems that we are going through today.
Well, for me, I'm asking, how is that going to work in the age where people are always going to do age declaration by way of affidavit? So how are you going to deny that? I lost my birth certificate, so I've done my declaration and this is what I have. How are you now going to say that child was not born in a certain year? So how would it work? Then another thing, if you're talking about primary education, we're talking about primary education. I know you will say our times, years are past. I went to Maryland Convent Private, for instance. When you're age 4, you start kindergarten. So by the time you go through they call it year now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 compulsory before you get into secondary school. At all the Catholic schools, find out. If you're not 11, they don't admit you. They don't. So what are we talking about? Like you said, the government has a lot to do.
A lot of role to play in this.
Yes.
You know, let you put your own submission on this trending story.
Honestly, it's always easy to come up with a policy or with an idea, but how do you want to sustain it? And have you thought about the bridging of the remedial gaps that is going to be played? So what happens to a child that is very bright and had finished at the age of 14? What you're saying is this same child is going to sit at home for the next 4 years. How are you going to engage that child? So I see a gap of idleness. I see another gap of frustration, and I see another gap of retarded growth in a child. Let's balance this. It's fantastic for so many reasons, but even the job that we are thinking by the time they are finished that they will get, is it actually there? So the truth of the matter is, I love it. There must be a reason why this is coming up. But what are we using to bridge even the existing gap? Because the truth of, in another 5 years, we have a problem. And what's going to happen to these children? This is the age where they're agitated. And if you don't give them the real answers why you're doing what you're doing, be ready for another reboot out.
All right, many thanks again. You know, the second trending story that caught our attention is the coalition of the United Political Parties, the CUPP, has alleged that the Buhari administration of harboring the third term agenda, and that is because of the major factor in the nomination of the presidential or the president's personal assistant on social media, Loretta Onoche, as the INEC commissioner by the president. You know, Antefo, let me let you go. Efo, like, thank you.
Yeah.
Look at the eyes.
Go ahead.
She doesn't like that.
I know it's fine.
Go ahead,
it's
go ahead,
fine.
go
I know
ahead,
Kike.
go ahead.
Kike too, so it's okay. You know. So for me, I think that has been stepped down already by the National Assembly. It has been stepped down. And I think, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way, she has become one of the most popular persons. You know, some people say those in the assembly did it because she's vocal, because she's female, you know, and I don't know, can we just do things right in our dear country? Kike, take it from there.
All right, thank you. Thank you for bringing it. I think personally, I don't care if Buhari has a third-term agenda, which I know is not possible. Let me emphasize on that before some people will come after me after the show. However, I am happy that the Senate did something really right. Yes. I'm happy that they're exercising the power of checkmating the excesses of the presidency. Yes, I said the excesses of the presidency. And Onoche is the presidential and as an APC reputation with the Nigerians. And it is sad that she's, you know, denying that, you know, she's denying brazenly that, which is under the oath that we all saw, that it is also, however, suspicious that there can be a strong notion, especially when it comes to the Electoral Commission or commissioner from our own states, Delta states to be precise, and the president chose to place Loretta above her. This is an open favorism, if you ask me, and that is exactly one of the reactions that we are facing today. Hence the reason why it seems as if we are backwards in this country. Hence the reason why it seems as if, you know, we keep placing our people into strategic positions, not caring whether they have the credentials or met the criteria or not. So, well, for me, it's just sad that all of this is happening, but the only comfort for me is that she was rejected, and the Nigerians now have peace when it comes to, you know, all of this. I see our generation as Sorosoke. Even though some people say, well, you're over 40, you're no longer a youth. I'm youth. Sorosoke generation. Dami, what's your saying?
Well, I think that it's good that the Senate, this is not women ambushing women this time. But they should understand the fact that we are still clamoring for a fresh air. There are a lot of people that have not, there are a lot of avenues that have not been tapped. A lot of brains have not been harnessed. Yes. There are a lot of people in these offices just going about their duties diligently and quietly. You know them. But sometimes it feels like it's okay for you to choose the person in your wagon to choose the person in
Favoritism.
your favoritism, the person in your circle who you know can dance to your tune. 2023 is already looking like, hey, it's going to rain hippopotamus and elephants. Then you now want to put fire inside the kerosene already by appointing this kind of person. The only thing I remember of her was when she dragged Uncle Dele Momodu on Twitter.
My own
They had that nasty drag, and I'm like, for a woman who is supposed to be in front, to be the special advisor or what to the president on social media, coming to fight this dirty on social media, then it shows that our office is I mean, it's shaking. The seat is not balancing.
I want to say that sorry, Kike, the National Assembly, what they said, you know, whether they meant it or not, it doesn't matter. But at least it pacifies people, saying that because of the outcry from the Nigerian people.
Oh, thank you that people heard our cry last.
And Dami, I'm glad that you said that, you know, she came to social media to misbehave, you know, and this, you know, this leads to the next submission for me, that we see the youth of today, you see them come on social media to misbehave. Pardon my word, there's a reason why I'm using that word misbehave, because I can use another word that will not be pleasant for all of us here. You know, most youth of today, most youth, because I have done research, you know, I'm a researcher.
Yes,
most youth of today,
Okay.
you will see them that they come on social media. Most of them, yes, I'm happy that technology have enhanced a lot of things and have brought us, you know, as a global village and all of that. I'm also happy that I joined social media a year and 8 months ago. I'm always counting it, guys. But the question is, when the parents are supposed to be the first role model to the children.
Yes.
The parents are supposed to be the one to guard the children or guide the children on how to behave, how to, you know, on etiquette, lots of etiquette. But when you see somebody who is representing Nigeria on an international scale, when you see a parent who is supposed to comport herself on all levels, that's the reason why I keep telling people today that married women, I'm sorry, you know, a lot of married women today, when we clamor for infidelity from the men, the married women today are more in tune with it. They are even, you know, they've taken the scale high there. And those are the things. It's just that there are different types of sins. That sin from our end is not a pleasant one. Hence the reason why I feel that, you know, the foundation of many homes today is
It's dilapidated. It's gone.
What's your take in 1 minute, sir? 1 minute, man. What do you have to say?
You see, in life, favor isn't fair.
Yes.
Standard of life, qualities, moral, ethics, etc. is something that I always say, as we are in the now, in the digital, in the future, we must always imbibe in this issue of morals and values.
Yes.
Now we are speaking more, we should speak more, we should express ourselves more, and be hopeful that the best will happen.
Hey, that's a
you.
nice summation.
Nice way to
And
end.
with
Thank
that, we've
you.
come to the end of another episode of Real Talk with Kike. We indeed had an awesome show on today's edition of Real Talk with Kike, courtesy our resourceful guest, Mrs. Chinwe Bode-Akinwande. A great time being with us today on the show. And of course, to my co-host, thanks for keeping it real. On this note, my name remains Kike Lomatondawo, and you are
Damlola Banire.
And I am EFO.
Chinwe Bode-Akinwande.
all right.
I was going to say
Really nice having you.
Thank you.